Hello, let's dive into the four desires together. So the four desires are a set of tantric yoga teachings that have been passed down through a number of teachers, specifically from the Himalayan Institute. Pundaji is the name of the teacher who taught it to Rod Stryker, who is a yoga teacher out of Colorado, who has a system of yoga called Para Yoga, which he's been teaching for many years. Sorry, I'm trying to get the right angle so I can talk freely. Okay. So Para Yoga is the larger system from which Rod Stryker teaches, and he wrote a book called The Four Desires, and he leads workshops around the world around the four desires. And I had the opportunity to spend a training weekend with him many years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, at least by now, probably maybe even longer, 6 or 7. So the four desires are, from the yogic perspective, 4 aims or areas of our life that we always want to consider and really help us with the meaning and purpose of life. So the translation for the 4 desires is often the yoga of purpose and fulfillment. Now, what I love about it is that when I learn the 4 desires, and I learn the questions that were asked within each of the areas or the aims, they were so in line with stuff that I had been learning and reading from positive psychology, reading just from wellness and well-being research. And again, things kind of coming together. Oh, the ancient yogis asked these same questions. Oh, these texts are still relevant today. And that wisdom, that connection is something I really love. So when we're thinking about the yoga tradition, the wisdom tradition, the philosophies that have guided humans for many years, thousands of years, this can be really helpful. So the yoga of purpose and fulfillment, this is inspired by ancient yogic text and tantric philosophy. The 4 aims or areas of your life. We all have a desire for a meaningful life. It's something we actually, as humans, we all have. And this is the way that we can achieve it. According to the yogic philosophy, by looking at these aims in these areas regularly, this is a way we can achieve it. Whatever your roles, the other thing that I want to be clear about for 4 desires is they do say it's a total system, meaning if you really stay true to these 4 areas, that you don't need to add more. The underlying purpose is how to engage skillfully in the world. So these are the basic teachings. How do you engage skillfully in the world? If you were to go to a yoga teacher and you were to feel overwhelmed by your life or feel depressed or anxious or not have meaning and purpose, then you would go right to these teachings. It's a way of living in balance. And the other part that's really beautiful with this is they demand reflection. They demand attention. So the habit is, get in the habit of thinking about the 4 desires regularly. Again, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, maybe seasonally, but have this in your toolbox as a way for you to touch base. I love the fact that part of the original teaching is it's a way of living in balance, but it also demands reflection. And it's not constant where every day you have to think about this, but it is something I want you to touch in with and see where you need shifts and changes. A lot of this stuff is not going to be new to you because we've been doing so much of this, but it's just another way of having some more tools that really help you. And I want you to know where it comes from, okay? So the first one is Dharma, and this is yogic tantra philosophy. Dharma is different than Buddhist Dharma. So this is really about your duty, your ethics, your truth, and your responsibility, your purpose in life. Stepping up to serve yourself and society, whatever your roles are and the actions you're engaged in, whatever you're doing, your Dharma is to do it well, to serve yourself and serve life in the present moment. Gary Kraftstow is a yoga teacher who teaches about 4 desires as well. From this tradition, from the Desikachar tradition, who's another modern yoga teacher. And I love this, whatever you're doing, your Dharma is to do it well, serve yourself and serve life in the present. There's a lot of teachings in Ayurveda and Buddhism around right action, right livelihood, and to commit. In Ayurveda, they say that people can get really sick because they're committing crimes against nature or against themselves and their true nature. And that means doing things that are not necessarily like what you're here to do. And a lot of you guys will ask me after, well, what am I here to do? And that's really for you to try, investigate. What do you feel like you're here to do? Is it to create a lineage of love? Is it to, I don't know, is it to write a book that heals yourself? Is it to, I don't know. There's lots of things it could be. So I want you to think about that in your life, your Dharma. So what I've done for each of the 4 desires is I have a little blurb, which I just read you the Dharma one, and then some questions. So you can grab your journal, you can put the 4 desires at the top of it, you can cut and paste this out so that you have the questions. What is my role in the world? What are my obligations? Which ones feel right? Am I on the path for good? How can I best serve the world around me? And I think this is that, am I on the path for good and serve the world around me? This is like, I come back to these questions all the time with social media and with the fast pace of living in DC and family. There is a lot of things that are pulling for my attention, and I don't always know that the things that they're asking or doing are pulling towards that, am I on the path for good? And that feels really important to me when I'm making daily choices. How can I best serve the world around me? Sometimes, I'm trying to give you a good example. Sometimes that means doing something just hyper locally, even if it's just going, walking around doing errands and just being really intentional to make eye contact with people and to really have that face-to-face connection. For me, not for you guys, but for me, that feels really important to my Dharma as a person of healing and light and energy, so that I can model that to others. And that feels really important towards my own mission. So those are the questions for Dharma. Artha is the prosperity and wealth. Artha is your career, is your work, is how you live and how you make money. The material comfort you need to live in the world with ease, the stuff you need to get your Dharma done. So if you can't, if you don't have food or a place to live and you want to do some kind of work in the world, it's really hard to do that if you can't pay your bills or you don't have food. That which supports your life's mission. What do I see as truly valuable? And learn to live skillfully in the world and be content with what you have. This Artha one is one I think about all the time, especially as I dance between the coaching world and the therapeutic world, because in the therapy world, there tends not to be such a focus on financial prosperity. It seems to more be depth of work and legacy of work, as where in the coaching world, it's very driven by make a lot of money now so you can donate or give or create something that helps people, or that really spreads your mission. So this whole piece of coming from the wisdom tradition around what do I see as truly valuable and learn to live skillfully in the world and be content with the things you have. Lately, I've really been practicing just loving simplicity, simple food, simple time with the kids, sort of being muggly with watching TV and laying around the couch with them, and just really being present with this life as it is. I have a lot of that pitta fire, that drive and that motivation and the ambition, and I'm just asking her to take a little bit of a rest. I've been asking her to do that for a while. She always sneaks back in. And I'm really been just, journaling in the mornings about being content with things as they are and just watching the flow of my life rather than so much control and plan and goal setting, which I'm now really, really good at. And if I want to live that way, I can, but I also am going to continue to stretch myself and experiment with new ways of being. So Artha, prosperity and wealth. This is just looking at your career, looking at your work. If you work from home or you're right now taking care of your family, again, your family work and looking at that and how that relates. Okay, next. Kama is pleasure and gratification. Desire for pleasure is what makes the world go round. Art, beauty, kindness, friendship. Inquire deeply about your own pursuit of pleasure. One of the things that I've noticed is that the work that I do brings me a lot of pleasure. Writing, teaching, sharing, Reading, it brings me a lot of pleasure, so I'm thinking a lot about other options for pleasure and what that continues to look like seasonally. That's why I always make joy lists and just refresh my practices seasonally. The questions to contemplate: what am I passionate about? What brings me pleasure? Am I enjoying my life, or am I just rushing through it? Am I happy? What do I care about? Am I hooked on anything is part of those like work addictions or any other addictions that you might be having that are taking away from your true pleasure and joy. Are my pleasures leading me towards or away from my life purpose? And so I think that too is like so many of my pleasures draw me more towards deep work, draw me more towards enjoying today. Because my pleasures are so simple. It's like going for a walk in the woods or laying on the hammock with an awesome book. I'm really not that like sexy with my pleasures. It's really, really straightforward, but I've just learned more and more that that's truly what brings me joy. So I'm not going to make it too complicated. Okay, next is moksha, pursuit of liberation and spirituality. So again, when we're talking about the yoga of meaning and fulfillment and purpose, we're talking about the fact that the spirituality, this connection piece, the pursuit of freedom and liberation is a part of our journey. We want freedom innately. We want freedom from suffering. We want freedom to express ourselves and to be happy. Taking time to remember your inherent freedom gives meaning to your dharma and everything you do in life. The questions to contemplate are: what am I doing to free myself from activities and perceptions that make me unhappy, especially on the perceptions side? That's huge. How can I not get caught up in my emotions? What do I choose to blind myself to? What do I choose to blind myself to? That's a huge one also, and really facing the truth of our lives. Do I feel trapped? Can I be free from blaming myself and others? And how can I make my mind free? These are obviously very big questions that don't have one answer. We're not looking for one answer. I just want you to think about these things. I want you to sit and meditate, contemplate, journal about them, have them in your toolbox so that you can really be asking yourself, this is how you develop a really strong, intuitive, beautiful inner relationship. So at the end of this, I just put a few things. Yoga is curiosity and being human. Reflection in these areas must happen often. This is, again, according to the teachers. We must meditate on our roles in the world, our values, our relationships, our passions. These are not to cure or extinguish or transcend. They're simply part of being human and embracing them as loving life. So it's more about doing your touch points in these 4 areas so that you can be really aware and mindful of what's going on in your life. Okay, so we've got some weekly practice questions here. So what I suggest you do is set the space and tone and atmosphere, go somewhere beautiful, light a candle. Until you get a really good sense of how these work in your life, you could have a 4 desires time weekly on your schedule for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And just sit with the questions, choose an area that you want to journal on, or even just bring the questions in and then sit quietly and meditate and breathe with them. That would work too. Reflect on the past week related to your dharma. How did you serve your community, yourself, your family? What were your obligations? Did you meet them with ease? What ethical tests did you face and how did you deal with them, right? So we want to touch in with our life and do some reflection and contemplation so we can make choices based on our alignment. What about Artha? What did you do this week for livelihood, for health? What supports do you need to give yourself? Note any concerns or anxieties. We just noting them. We're just embracing them, bringing them into the dialogue, into the conversation. Kama, what actions did you take to create more joy in your life and in the world? Where were your greatest, it says greats, but greatest pleasures? Last, reflect on your moksha. Did you do some yoga, meditate, pray, read something spiritual, or do some self-inquiry? Did you find any feelings of freedom? What areas of your life feel constricted or burdened? And what do you need to liberate yourself? Right, under that we have now look at all 4 aims. How are they interacting with one another? So how do they intersect? How are they in balance? Are you working too hard, or do you have not enough in any? Don't have a focus in one of the areas? Create a statement of support for your life. So this is really, when you're doing this each week, you can do, if you decide to do it each week rather than each month, you can do it create this statement of support for your life. I actively engage in my dharma, but was not able to attend actions for moksha. So set an intention for the next week for all 4, or just 1 or 2 for the week. You don't have to do all of them. You can record them in your journal and reflect back. So you determine how you want to interact with them. But I think even just by spending some time engaging with the basics, you're going to get a sense, you can get a sense of where you're at with them and what's working and what's not working. On the last page of this is, I don't know if it will be included. There's some notes on sort of where we take it after this, but this is the basics. I want you guys to get started on the basics. And if I see that you're practicing and you're enjoying it and you're wanting more, then I will give you the rest of it. But I think for now, that's enough to get started with and enough to get you going. And we can do a 4 Desires 2.0 another time. All right, take care.